In this video of weed-free market gardening, I'm going to show you exactly how we converted this piece of land into a weed-free market garden like this. Coming up. Hey, what's up guys, Moreno here from thedutchfarmer.com, and this channel is about all things market gardening. We cover production side, business side, tips, tricks, techniques, tutorials, tools and everything in between in the hope that you can use this information and transition from your 9-5 into farm life. If that is something that you're interested in, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Alright, so I've been asked by a lot of you guys how we manage the weeds on our farm and how we seem to keep this whole area weed free. Now, if you're struggling with some kind of weed pressure on your farm or in your gardens, let me know in the comment section below right now. I'm curious how many of you actually have some sort of weed problem and what kind of weeds you're struggling with. Okay, to set things straight from the beginning, let me tell you that there's no such thing as a weed-free farm or garden. It is all about how you initially convert your plot of land into a production area and the weed management systems you have in place from there on. There will always be some kind of weeds popping up here and there that have been either brought here by the wind or in our case a lot by the birds. As you can see, we have the benefit to have several large trees established on the property and we've made the growing beds around those trees. Now I have to say I'm really happy with those trees and they're a big benefit to the overall system. They continuously photosynthesize, take atmospheric carbon out of the air, and in combination with water and sunlight through photosynthesis, they convert carbon dioxide into sugars, which then can be converted into cellulose, fructose, amino acids, fats, nectars, etc. These are the building blocks of the soil, and the health of the soil food web depends on this process. Next to that, the trees provide a great protection to our crops in harsh weather conditions, but also provide habitat for insects and birds. And birds, well, they eat seeds, and birds, they poop a lot. So what ends up happening is, besides the annual weeds that are flying in from neighboring properties, we are seeing weeds germinating directly under the tree systems on our farm. Now, to handle those germinating weeds, we've got systems in place that ensures that the area stays pretty much weed-free all the time. And quite honestly, the best that we've created with the no-dig method, taking off the weeds is really simple. But what I want to talk more about is the establishment of the beds and how we converted this piece of land that hadn't been touched for nearly over 20 years into the farm it is today. So this piece of land that we farm on and the adjacent buildings on this property is all rented. When we first arrived on this piece of land a couple of years ago in June, the season was already well on its way. It was late spring, early summer at that time. We just had our newborn baby and a dream of establishing and running a profitable farm. We were on a pretty low budget at the time and quite in a hurry to start generating an income as soon as possible. So we needed to convert the area that at this time was completely overgrown with weeds that reached up to our waist into a production area. Now, having largely been influenced by permaculture and worked on quite some farms before this, I knew that I wanted to farm in a way that benefited the whole system, including the soils, the local and global environment, and obviously our wallet, because, well, if we don't make enough money, we would need to have to find a job. So, after doing some research, I quickly found out about doing the no-dig approach to market gardening. Just like what I'd learned at that time with permaculture, with no-dig we're completely aiming to cover the soils with a thick layer of mulch, and in this case with compost. By applying this thick initial layer of 10 to 15 centimeters of compost onto the surface of the soil without incorporating it, you're basically smothering out all the weeds below this layer, with the added benefit of feeding the soil food web a source of organic matter, and triggering the system into a succession. The whole idea behind this sounded great and I was directly sold on to the idea of approaching a market garden like this. Until I started doing some calculations and I realized that in order to cover the beds with this initial 15 centimeters or 6-inch layer of compost, we'd had to invest roughly 3,000 euros in compost, which is roughly the same in US dollars. Even though we had experience working on several farms before this, we never quite worked with the no-dig system, so it was pretty new to us. Therefore, we decided that instead of investing this amount of money into this compost layer, which was quite a steep investment at the time, we would do a one-time initial tillage of the land to get rid of the existing vegetation and then cover the land with half of the recommended depth of compost so that we could save some money at the beginning stages. Honestly, if I knew then what I know now, I should have never even hesitated about that initial investment of compost. If I had to start a farm completely from the ground up, I would make sure to create all the growing beds in autumn with a thick layer of compost of roughly 15 centimeters or 6 inches, and then fill up all the pathways with cardboard and a thick layer of wood chips to completely smother out any existing vegetation. This way I'd make sure that once spring arrives, I'd have a complete weed-free market garden with beds that are ready to be planted in. Sure, the initial investment into this compost layer is quite steep, but honestly, this in combination with all the necessary and essential tools you would need to get started, which I covered in another video of market garden tools, you could get started with an initial investment anywhere between 5,000 to 10,000 euros, which is roughly the same in US dollars. Now, with some good market research, preparation and planning, you could be making anywhere between 25 to 50,000 euros in your first year, meaning you can make back your initial investments plus make a moderate income. Now, obviously, this depends on the size of your land, your markets and your experience. Then after laying down this initial coverage of compost in the preceding years, you will only have to lay down 2.5 to 5 centimeters or 1 to 2 inches of compost on the beds to keep the whole system fed. Now, if you've been farming or gardening for a while and you've been tilling all this time, you probably know the amount of labor that goes into weeding your plot of land and the time and energy it takes to get the situation under control. You'll be surprised with the effectiveness of using this approach in farming or gardening. Honestly, on our farm right now, we don't do a lot of weeding at all anymore. For us, it's just a matter of growing crops, and occasionally we use some precision weeders to get all of the weeding done on our farm. We don't use any flame weeders or tarps or any other approach to handling weeds. It is all about making sure to get the entire plot under control before you start growing your crops. This is so critical when it comes to growing annual vegetables, and it allows us to be much more profitable with the reduced time we spend weeding. Besides that, it also functions as a great marketing strategy. When you arrive on the farm, the first thing you see is these completely clean beds with wood chip mulch in the walkways. It is something many people are generally not used to, and when they think of farming or gardening, they relate this often with dirty environments with lots of exposed soils, dirty poots, and generally not very inviting places. At least that's the case for us in our region. As soon as a new customer comes to buy some produce from the farm, 9 out of the 10 times they've been so impressed with how clean it all looks that they'll come back for more and talk to their friends, families, and neighbors about it. This allows us to gain many new customers without having to do any extra marketing effort on our side. So as to recap, step 1, make sure to create your beds in autumn, use some strings or ropes and pegs to lay out the beds, mow the whole area before if needed, and then lay down a thick layer of compost directly onto the surface of the soil of roughly 4 to 6 inches or 10 to 15 centimeters. Step 2, lay down cardboard in the pathways and a thick layer of wood chips on top of that. Step 3, wait until spring arrives and you can go and start planting your crops. All in all, having a completely weed-free farm and clean environment to work in makes your life as a farmer much more profitable and a lot more enjoyable. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to our channel right now. Also, visit our website over at thedutchfarmer.com and grab yourself a free copy of our 7-step ebook. Now let me know in the comment section below, what do you think of using the no-dig approach to market gardening to create a complete weed-free farm? Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and make sure to check out our other videos. I'll see you there.